Welcome to the paranormal and metaphysical world of Twilight Tonight. Host DeeDee Moonflyer grew up with very open-minded parents who had many experiences with UFOs and the paranormal. Because of her mom's insistence on exposing her to spiritual classes, meditation, and teachings of Edgar Cayce, DeeDee had a fascination and deep interest in the paranormal. Her own paranormal experiences have led her to seek out and interview other fascinating, knowledgeable people for better understanding of this phenomenon. Now, your host of Twilight Tonight, DeeDee Moonflyer.
Okay, it's still Happy Friday, everyone. Welcome to Twilight Tonight, WLTK-DB. Tonight, as always, we have very special guests tonight, and I loved him on my own podcast, Twilight Tonic Paranormal Podcast. He is the Assistant State Director of Arizona MUFON. He also has an amazing book called Unidentified Aerial Phenomena, a beginner's guide to researching UFOs. Please welcome Shane Hurd. Hi, Shane. It's so nice to talk to you
and
see you.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Shane, there's been so much going on in the UFO world right now. I mean, the news. My first question to you before we dive into some things, what do you think about all this?
Yeah, it's been crazy, really. Lots of good stuff happening.
Yes. Do you believe this is a positive step to first contact?
Yeah, I think so. Awareness is a big part of it, and also not only being aware of the UAP issue, but also getting people to understand that it's not a joke, that it's not nonsense, that it is a reality that we have to, acknowledge. And that once people accept that, then I think the rest can come.
Yeah, I agree. It kind of took me by surprise the first time I heard about it on the news, but then that upcoming trial whole thing kind of made me sit down and go, wow, it's about time. It's all these reports for years and years. And it kind of made me sit back and go, what is next? Is there going to be more, you believe, coming around the corner?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, absolutely. I on the 26th, that congressional hearing kind of opened the door a little bit, right? But you
Yeah.
can see that people's reaction to it was because a lot of what they said was, well, I can't tell you unless we're in a skiff, or I can't tell you because that's classified. But that's that's where the good stuff lies, right? People want to know. They kind
Yeah.
of rehashed what everyone knew for the most part, except for these allegations that were made that were pretty sensational. But the evidence and the proof is locked up behind this top secret or this secret information. So you just have to know that people are going to press for that. And I was reading some articles today where that those committee members are pushing for more hearings, and they need to get the rest of Congress to cooperate. But I believe that it will happen. But people also need to remember that some of those allegations were pretty scary, such as causing harm to humans or our government causing harm to people or killing people because of this topic. So that just takes it on a whole nother level that makes it super sensitive. So I think that's going to be sort of the conundrum for a while, is finding a way around that issue, um, while at the same time revealing or disclosing more information to people.
Right. In your personal findings, I know this is probably an odd question. Do you think that the government knows what this race looks like? That is, can you hear me, Todd? Can you hear me, guys? Oh, I think Sean has frozen. There you are, Todd. There you are, Shane. Out of
Yeah,
curiosity.
sorry, this is we're in rural Arizona.
Oh, I get it. I get it. Do you think the government obviously is aware of this? Do you think they have contact with that particular race?
I think that it's possible. Here's the thing: with any of those claims, that we have to have some kind of proof, right? Now, let me
Right.
be clear. So, I think there are people that know, let's say like contactees, experiencers,
Sure.
abductees, and then potentially members of the government know. But what I'm saying is, in the public, the proof or evidence put forth in the public is not strong enough yet for us to say for sure these things are happening. So I kind of reserve judgment, but I do say I think it's possible, but I do want to see the evidence or proof before I would commit to saying that for a fact.
Ah,
But that's the investigator in me.
sure. And I think that's very, very important, by the way. You know, for investigators, like I always tell people, excuse me, I have some skepticism every time I hear or see something myself. So, investigation is very, very important to prove a fact. And I know you work with experiencers. When this news came out, did any of them say anything to you?
I'm sorry. Could you repeat the last part there? The
Sure.
question you said.
When the news came out, did the experiencers say anything to you specifically?
No, not in regards to the congressional hearing, but
Okay.
um, I'm a member of what's known as the Experiencer Research or Resource Team of MUFON that deals specifically with folks who have made a report that they've had contact experience. And we don't investigate it, but we do
Yeah,
offer them, comfort, support, a hearing
sure.
ear, and we can refer them to services like, uh, you know, uh, a therapy group or something like that. So,
Right.
but the things that I hear from those folks are the same types of things that we're seeing and hearing in the reports that we're hearing, as well as I kind of keep my ear to the ground in terms of social media, Facebook and TikTok and those things where a lot of these videos come up, YouTube,
Hmm.
and it just seems like there's an increase in videos from around the world, in particular, a lot of other countries that are able to post those as well. And some of those videos are in my mind quite interesting. I don't have the reach to be able to investigate those videos
Hmm.
in the way I would if it was a submitted report to MUFON. But just by looking at some of them, they're quite intriguing. So it just feels like there's more
Yeah.
activity on the part, whether it's on the part of them, whoever they are, the others, or people now being more free to demonstrate an interest without ridicule. And then, of course, the platforms that we have to make that video or photo known worldwide is also probably part of the reason that it seems like a lot more is occurring. But I can tell you, there are more reports being submitted to MUFON. The trend is up. So
Yeah.
putting all those pieces together, I would say, yeah, this something's happening. Something different is happening. What, I'm not
Yeah.
sure, but something definitely is going on.
I find it very interesting how that's building. I interviewed also somebody last week, and he said that he believes that in November we're going to hear more. And it's going to come to like people are going to be kind of shocked of what they're going to hear. So I'm wondering what's going to happen in
That
the
would be
next
great.
6 months. Yeah, I think so too. I think it would justify everything that people have seen in the past. You know? Now, my next thing is, Shane, I've got to ask you a question that everybody always asks you. And I know when I've interviewed you before, you talked about your past, but you also talked about other things when I interviewed you, including where you grew up with your mom. And you grew up with, Bigfoot was a normal part of your life. Is that correct? Like you didn't question it, you
Yeah,
just knew
absolutely.
it
Yeah,
existed.
I grew up in the Pacific Northwest. Yeah, it was just common. I mean, I was a kid, up to 20 years old, but it just felt like common knowledge. Yeah, that what everybody at least knew somebody who had an experience if they didn't have one themselves. So, yeah, I always thought that there was definitely a reality to it.
Yeah.
Still do.
Oh yeah. Do you think there is a correlation between UFOs, alien life, and Bigfoot? Or is that something that's separate, you believe?
Yeah, I I do think so. And it's funny. Myself and a group of Yeah, we were a couple of investigators and myself were engaged in a conversation about it recently, and some of the points I wanted to make about that was that at first, when people put forth the notion that Bigfoot and UFOs could be related, I was very insulted. I was like, that's just crazy town. But in time, when you start unraveling it and looking at the facts, the fact that Bigfoot, appears and disappears, that there's no scat, there's no bones or burials. It's when there are definitely photos and videos and eyewitness accounts, but they're very brief and they're at a distance. Um, and so that behavior seems to match more rather than an actual community of 8 or 10 foot tall beasts living in places all around the world, to more like something that kind of arrives when it chooses and then leaves when it chooses, in a way that we can't completely understand. And so I think you have to, at least if you're looking at the evidence that we have, you have to have an open mind and consider other possibilities. And I think that, Bigfoot could be some sort of dimensional being, and have the ability to pop in and out, or because some UFO reports are linked to the presence of um, a Bigfoot, that there could be some correlation. I don't know what it could be, but I'm now less insulted now that I have more knowledge about both Bigfoot and those encounters as well as UFOs. So I would not rule out the possibility that they are related at this time.
Interesting. When you lived up in the mountains, did you ever witness anything, orbs, lights in the sky when you were a child growing up there? Can you hear me, Shane? Can you hear me, Shane? I don't think he can hear me. Can you hear me, Shane? I don't think he can hear me.
Hello, I do now.
Okay. I could tell, like I could hear a click in my headphones. I was like, he went off. When you were growing up in that area, did you ever see orbs or lights in the night sky as a child?
No, the only I spent a lot of times in the woods. We lived on a lake in the forest and everything, and you know, our home, our not our cabin, but our home was, you know, at the base of a mountain, and again, fairly rural. I spent lots of times in the forest, but I never really had a paranormal experience as a childhood, except for in my home, which is, you know, and which at the time I acknowledged it. And then, you know, once I left home and began living life, I really didn't give it any thought until later, you know, about 10 years ago, I got into UFOs and some paranormal. Then I really started thinking back, oh my gosh, that was some pretty intense stuff. But I had just rationalized it at the time. But now I look back on it and yeah, that was some pretty freaky stuff. So, and then also recently I've been having a couple investigator buddies. We've been coming to my ranch here about once a month, and we do some CE5, Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind. It's sort of a protocol to try and, you know, call in or make known that you would like to see a UFO, and sometimes they appear. But we also have a spirit box, and we set up, you know, 6 cameras. We have night vision, we have FLIR, and we have optical. And so we're recording in, you know, kind of 360 degrees, and we're sitting outside in the middle of my arena, so you see the whole sky and stuff. But we've had some really interesting experiences doing that lately. So about 2 weeks ago, I had a really interesting experience. So yeah, I mean, you know, it's there. I think UFOs and paranormal, there's some kind of relationship. At a bare minimum, the relationship is it's beyond what is normal, right? Whether they're connected or not, I don't know, but they're both are incredibly interesting, and there really is some reason.
Yeah, and I find that so interesting. Like I make it's very publicly known that when my mom was pregnant with me, she saw a UFO, and that's when her like huge journey to like spirituality, the paranormal, and things began. Prior to that, she didn't even think about it. I've lost him again. You there, Shane? Did I lose ya? He will be back.
Looking for a unique paranormal experience? The Haunted Rock Island YMCA Paracon, October 7th, from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. is just the event you're looking for. You will have the opportunity to investigate the Haunted Rock Island YMCA with ACG Paranormal. Visit with over 60 paranormal and metaphysical vendors from 8 or more states. And pre-order your t-shirts at dvinar@aol.com. Visit a psychic gallery reading, mediums, tea leaf reading, animal communication, dream interpretation, aura reading, tarot and oracle card readings, or get a Reiki healing. See a demonstration of the Estes method by Carly Bird. Presentations by Nick Simons and Aaron G. Thompson of 28 Days Haunted, Greg Bakken from Ghostbox Radio, and headliner Rick Hayes, along with many folks you'll see on Paraflix. Be sure to like and follow our sponsors: Paraflix, WLTK-DB Talk Radio LLC, Studio 6 Productions, Unturned Pages, and Ocean Eye Crystals. General admission is only $5, and all proceeds go directly to the haunted Rock Island YMCA. For more information on the haunted Rock Island YMCA Paracon and vendors, look for them on Facebook under events.
We'll be back with Shane. He's coming up here in just a second, everyone. There you are, Shane. Oh, you're muted. You're mute. There you are, Shane. Oh, you muted again. There we go. Can you hear me now, Shane? Where Shane lives, there's rainstorms and stuff, so
Yep.
he's gonna go in and out a little bit sometimes. Shane, can you hear me now?
Do we still have a delay?
It's mine now. Can you hear me now, Shane?
I can hear you.
Okay, good. Now mine went out, so don't feel bad. My mic and everything went out.
Oh boy. Yeah.
So Shane, my question to you is, gosh, I totally forgot. But I have somebody online that has a question, and it was,
Okay.
do you believe UFOs use maglev technology? Do you think saucers use maglev technology, electromagnetic, what's that word?
Gravitics.
Lifts or crafts, high voltage. Wow. Okay.
I saw the question.
Okay.
To answer it, I think that's a very distinct possibility. I think it's potentially possible that humans have created anti-gravity technology, and in the applying the concepts that were posed in the question. That research on that was hot and heavy in the 1950s, and it was open and known, and then it went dark. And I think that what happened is they cracked the code on it, and they wanted to kind of suppress or keep that technology to themselves. And I think it's true that we know that let's take military aircraft, let's take fighter jets or bombers. The ones that we see in production today were in the hands of the military 30 years ago. So any technology that we see today is 30 years old, right? Mm-hmm. In some cases. So I think you could, in a practical way, apply the known scientific and military effort to create anti-gravity technology in the 50s, that they probably cracked that code and have some form of application of it today. However, that being said, I do not believe that things such as the so-called Tic Tac or other UFOs that are of great interest right now are man-made. And the reason I say so is that even if we have that platform, that technology, that propulsion, the performance characteristics of these UFOs are far greater. And I don't mean 50 years ahead or 100, maybe 1,000, maybe a million. I don't know, because you're talking like in the case of that Tic Tac, it went from 80,000 feet to 50 feet above sea level in 0.78 seconds, so less than a second. So the speed and the G forces were so great that I don't know that there's a material on Earth that could withstand that kind of pressures at those speeds and the heat generated and everything that goes with it. So, and often in our UFO investigations, the main things that we look at is not just the visual appearance, but because things, the visual appearance of things can be deceptive. You know, a balloon could be shaped like a UFO, you know, or, you know, there could be other objects, like even the Chinese spy balloons and things like that, that kind of stirred the pot a few months ago. You can't trust what you're seeing in terms of the visual part of that object, but the performance is where you can separate an actual UFO from, you know, a mistaken identity. So to answer his question, yes, I think potentially we've cracked the nut that we do have that technology, but whether it is fully operational, or if people are thinking that that's the explanation for all UFOs, I would say no way. Maybe for some UFOs, like the triangle ones, they seem to behave, in no pun intended, but more in a down-to-earth manner than some of the other UFOs. So like I always say with the UFO investigation, the devil's in the details. And so those are the things that, you know, I think separate potentially, if we have something, you know, exotic versus whatever you want, a real UFO, whatever that is. I think there's a distinction there, and it's the performance characteristics that really separate the two.
Interesting. Shane, do you think that there were more sightings over the desert or over water from what your research has given you? Can you hear me, Shane?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's no doubt that there is no doubt that USOs. Yep. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
So I would say that there is no doubt that UFOs and water, you know, is a big deal. Now, I think statistically, you'd have to say more UFOs are discovered or viewed or witnessed over land, but that's because that's where more people are, right? There's more sightings because there's more people on land than there is out in the ocean. However, logic says, well, where are they going? Where are they coming from? It's either outer space or some dimensional thing, or perhaps they're underwater. And again, the characteristics of these UFOs plainly show that they are transmedium, meaning they can travel in space, they can travel in our atmosphere, they can travel underground or underwater. And even there are accounts, reports, and even videos where UFOs actually go right through the ground like it's not even there, like fly into a mountainside. There was a recent case on Skinwalker Ranch. I don't know if folks have been watching that, but they had on video a UFO, a small white orb-looking UFO. It came down from the sky, flew down to across the ranch, and then dipped right down into the ground. It didn't crash. It didn't do anything like that. It didn't make a puff of dirt or anything. It just went through it like it wasn't there. So I found that really fascinating, and I've seen other accounts or heard of accounts where they have gone right into, like I say, a mountain, like Mount Shasta is a popular place where folks see UFOs. And so I think that's just, freaky, but they, being underwater, if there's such a thing as a base, well, being underwater would be ideal for that. And they have to be coming and going from somewhere. So I think that's a legitimate argument.
Yeah, and the ocean would make sense because it's so deep. They could go nobody would know there was a base under there because we don't know what's under there. I could have been there for years. So you sent me an interesting video right before we came on here. Can you tell the audience a little bit about it, and can you show that? That was something.
Okay, I'm going to try and show it.
Okay.
But you're going to have to be patient with me.
Patient.
Let's see if this will work here. Let's see. So would I go ahead and present? Is that the way we would do it?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let me see if I can present it.
That's cool.
So what we're seeing here, look on the right-hand side in the blue area.
The same question, were you an elemental?
Okay, so let me explain. So on this is a FLIR video, thermal. We're on my ranch. We are outdoors. I am to the left, and the red is hot. So you can see I'm sitting in a lawn chair, and you can see my feet, my legs go up, kind of my hips, and then, my arm there, and my face is red above the green. And to the right is another buddy of mine, also sitting in a lawn chair. And you can kind of see the redness here, and his leg goes down. There's a little table in the middle of us. And then to back in the distance a little bit to the right is sort of a red area. That's a third buddy of mine. And he's leaning way back in the chair, and he has his arms folded behind his head. And what we saw, we also had a spirit box going, and we were asking questions. And that's what you were hearing on the ghost box. But what happened was, and we did not see it with the naked eye. We saw this after we were reviewing the footage. And so it was pitch dark outside, so we really didn't see anything. But as you noticed, a hand-like object reached out and touched him on his elbow 2 times, and he felt the touch. So if you want, we could replay it again, and people could kind of see that. Okay, so let me.
That's so weird. I mean, you can see it.
The same question, were you an elemental?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so isn't that crazy? You could even see it was like a hand that went out like that, twice.
Yeah.
That was crazy town.
Oh my gosh. And he felt it on your ranch.
Yeah, he felt the touch right on his elbow. He's just right there like this, and it just reached out and touched him right on the elbow. It was crazy.
Do you have a lot of activity where you're at? Or is this the first time you've ever seen anything on your ranch?
It actually was the first time that we did anything from a paranormal point of view. And that night was absolute Disneyland of paranormal stuff that happened. So many things happened. We were shocked. We were just shocked. And we have since had another session after, and we didn't have nearly as much activity, but we had some activity. One of my buddies was using dowsing rods, and we're posing questions and, getting answers. And that was our last session. But this session, we had conversations that came over the spirit box that were crazy. Like, we said, "Hey, is there anyone here with us that would like to speak?" And immediately someone said, "I do." It was a female voice. "I do." We were, set back right away. And then we were asking a lot of questions, getting direct answers. And then one was really unusual. We were talking about deaths in our families, my two friends and I. And I started to tell them about someone in my family. And I said, the question is posed to me, "Did you have anyone in your family?" And I said, "Mike." And I was about ready to say my whatever. And the ghost box says, "He's your brother-in-law." And it was my brother-in-law. I was just blown away. So before I could utter the words, "It was my brother-in-law," it said it for me. So again, I'm not a paranormal expert by any means. So, but I'm thinking either it was around and knew it, or it was reading my mind before the words could come. I mean, I just can't explain how that could possibly happen. But again, we have it on audio, we have it on video, clear as bell. "He was your brother-in-law. He's your brother-in-law." That's what it said.
Wow. And I find it amazing because last time we talked, I don't think you had.
So we had several things like. No, it's just recent.
Yeah, like when I talked to you before, you're kind of like I am. Like, I believe in all of this, but I have like a healthy dose of skepticism. But when you see it on film like that, you just kind of, it's jaw-dropping. And then when you hear it, it's amazing stuff.
Yeah, I have a newfound respect.
Another way of thinking now. Now, do you ever see UFOs around your ranch? Have you ever seen them in the night sky? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hello, hello. Oh, goodness. Can you hear me, Shane? Can you hear me, Shane? Lost you again.
Yes. And that was the reason we basically, I can hear you.
Okay. I wasn't sure.
Yeah, there's a lag. Sorry about the lag. Yes, we've had, in fact, that night that we also had these paranormal
So you have seen something on that night?
I'll get on my phone.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have that video with me, but we also.
Are you looking for unbiased and uncensored paranormal and spiritual talk? At WLTK-DB.com, we offer several talk shows ranging from self-care to hauntings and everything in between. Find the shows and hosts on our website at WLTK-DB.com. You can watch them live or catch up on your latest favorites. While you're there, be sure to check out the store and pick up some of the latest station swag. Did you know we had a station blog, or that you can host your own show? It's all online at WLTKDB.com. Looking to advertise? Check out our competitive pricing and let's get you noticed. WLTK Talk Radio has something for everyone. So be sure to stop by and say hello at WLTKDB.com.
Hi guys, we're back with Shane Hurd tonight. He should be back momentarily. We are talking, he is the Assistant State Director of Arizona MUFON, and he'll be back in just a second. And he has an awesome video earlier, and hopefully he'll be back on soon. So give us just a second. Sorry about all the delays because of weather issues and internet issues. We've had some problems. So he'll be back up shortly. So he's reconnecting and he'll be back momentarily. So if anybody has any questions on UFOs, what's going on in that whole genre, please feel free to ask, and we can ask Shane Hurd when he comes back. And if you didn't see his video earlier, it was pretty awesome. So he had a really awesome, interesting video going on.
Download the new station calendar and never miss another show. To get it is simple and free. Just visit WLTK-DB.com to download or tap the subscribe button on our mobile app. Once the file is in your downloads folder, just double-click it, authorize it to your calendar, and boom, you have every show listed. Not only does it list the shows, but also the links to watch them live. We would like to thank Danny Loosemore for developing.
Okay, we are still getting Shane back, but also Shane was on my show, Twilight, Paranormal Podcast, with a bunch of other amazing guests. You should hear his interview. He's a very interesting, well-spoken man. I really love interviewing Shane. So check him out. Shane! You're back. So check him out on Twilight Tonic. He is on that show also.
Oh, boy.
I understand, Shane. Deep.
It's like the old adage, it's tough to work with kids, animals, and technology, right?
Yes.
They don't do what you expect them to do.
Of course. I understand, right, Mad Bird? Before we left, we got into that night when you had the paranormal experiences. Did you have UFO experience as well that night on the ranch?
Yes, we did, and we caught it on film. on a night vision camera, and it happened to be the camera was positioned looking at me and over my shoulder, which would have been to the west, and we were actually performing CE5 protocols, which involve playing certain tones, and we're doing them through a walkie-talkie in order to sort of broadcast those tones, out into the ether. And we were also posing questions, and I had posed the question, can you show yourself to us? And within 10 seconds or so, behind my shoulder in the distance was a obviously very strange light. It was an orb. It looked to me to be maybe 3 to 5 miles away in the distance, and it was very low on the horizon, only about 10 degrees. So it was just barely above the mountains. That I live in a valley, and it was above there. And it had a very strange strobe. So now, obviously, the first thing you would think is at an airplane. Well,
Right.
we've got an application where you can look at planes live in the air, and I mean it shows exactly to the second if there's a flight up there. In fact, it'll even tell you what kind of plane it is, where it came from, where it's going, flight number, tail number, model of airplane, tells you the distance from you, the altitude from you, the heading, all of that. So very thorough, and there was no plane in sight on the application. And moreover, when you see aircraft, they will have a red light on one side and a green light on the other side. And that's to help pilots know that if a plane is coming at them or going away, based on which side the green or the red light is on. So that's the purpose of those. But there's also an anti-collision strobe. And those strobe generally at 1 beat per second. They very, you can time it. Boom. This thing had an intermittent strobe. So it was a ball of light, and then the strobing flashes around it, and they were slightly inconsistent. They would, go flash, 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 flash. And it just moved just kind of across, the horizon, and then it just blinked out. So it just appeared, and it just blinked out, and it was in our field of view, and it slowed down, and then it kind of went up, and then it came down. And so again, where I was speaking earlier, that you look at the performance characteristics to help you decide, because visually you can't always tell, just not enough data there. But its behavior was abnormal, its look was abnormal, and it appeared when we asked it to appear. So I'm going to say, plus we verified on the Planes Live app, I'm going to say that it was anomalous. What it was, I don't know, but adding all those pieces together, I lean towards anomalous. So, and we were obviously pretty excited about that. That was our purpose and intention. And so we got a real kick out of that. And, I'm anxious to go ahead and do it again.
Oh, I bet. I think that would be so interesting because it was like domino effect, one thing after the other.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty incredible.
It was.
Wow.
Yeah,
Especially
I'm still kind of trying to get my head around it.
Well, with all the research you've done, and all of a sudden you get something, that must feel really good.
Yeah, I think that thermal video, I think that is incredible. I really do.
Yes.
I think, I've watched a lot of the paranormal TV shows and things, and I have to say, I think that's probably a pretty significant video. There's absolutely no explanation for it. So, when you put all of those circumstances together, I was shocked. I still am.
I would be too. It would make me sit and think for a few minutes after seeing something like that, especially if your friend felt it, and then the other experience on top of that. I think that's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
So what is next for you, Sean?
Yeah.
I know you're doing so much stuff right now, but what is next on your plate?
Well, I am. I still work full time. I've had a 24-year career in government. I'm within a year or two more, 2.5 years of retiring. So I'm just trying to hold it all together. And then when I retire, I am going to write another book. So that's definitely something I'm planning in the future. But it's a big effort and it takes a good year to do. Um, but in addition to that, I'm still very active as a researcher and investigator. I still investigate UFO cases. I investigate experiencer resource cases. And then, I'm involved with a podcast. I'm now a co-host on a podcast for MUFON. It's called What's Up. And then I also, I have conferences that I'm attending and that kind of thing. So I've got that's a full plate because I'm working full time. I have a horse ranch, really, really busy.
You have a horse ranch, Sean? I don't know. Can you hear me now, Sean? You can hear
I
me?
can hear you now.
Okay. I didn't know you had a horse ranch. That's awesome.
It keeps me busy. It's my wife's love for sure, and my granddaughters. So we have 8 horses, and then we have a show horse as well. Um, so it's a busy life.
That's amazing. They're beautiful creatures. So, one last question before we leave tonight. What is the strangest case you've ever researched with MUFON?
Ooh, yeah, gosh, it's hard to narrow it down. When you talk strange, um, I have to think that I'll cite two things. One, there was a very high quality witness that took a photo, an iPhone photo in live mode, which is actually a 2.5-second video. And it flat out right in front of you caught what has to be a UFO. There's just no other explanation for it. So the witness was high quality. The video was high quality. And I took that video. I'm trained in photo analysis. I did my own analysis. Then I sent it to our chief investigator, who also does photo analysis. Then I even sent it to Mark D'Antonio, who is our MUFON's astronomer and video analyst. And then I sent it to Dr. Bruce Maccabee. He also he's a naval physicist, optical physicist for the Navy. And wanted to get, because I thought it was so significant, I wanted to get all those opinions on it and document everything. And I wish I had it with me. I don't. But for me, from a UFO perspective, absolutely my best case. It's stunning. And then as far as weird goes, I was quite new, and I was dispatched on what we call a star team. And it's like a highly significant case, and you get a team of people with different skill sets. So myself, one of my main skills is interviewing, We had a couple police officers are members of our investigation team. They attended. We had somebody that did, the legal paperwork, and we had a videographer, and we all went to Tucson and interviewed this person in this case. But I will say it was so strange. The gist of it is this was a woman who she had contacted us because she basically wanted to just make a report to somebody, I guess. She claims to have been raped by a reptilian, and this reptilian was an acquaintance of hers who she felt that he changes from human form to reptilian. So that's quite strange in itself. But what was intriguing about this case is she'd made reports to the police. They accepted her reports. She also went to court and got a restraining order against this gentleman, all with the full knowledge of this claim. And then she had, bruises and other physical evidence. She had medical reports from it. And so, it was certainly worth investigating. It was very sensational, but there were elements of it that, really made you think. And we ended up, working with her over a period of a couple weeks and stuff. And we really didn't come up with a disposition or conclusion. We didn't say, it wasn't really directly a UFO case. It was more of an abduction case type of thing. So we don't really assign a disposition like, yeah, it was real. No, it wasn't real. We don't do that to people, of course. But we, it was noted. We, gave her some advice based on, experiences other folks have had, and put her in touch with some people that she could, relate to and that kind of thing to help her out. So, but some interesting elements of that man ended up, I saw him in a movie on Netflix about a hell cult in California in the 70s. He was actually in that. And then moreover, one of her claims was that he was involved with voodoo, and he made an effigy of her, poured gasoline on it, was going to light it on fire kind of a thing. And she claimed that, she could smell gasoline on her, even though they were miles apart. But he did not light it on fire kind of thing. So there were really, again, you have to, my mindset, I was new. And I was not a paranormal guy. I was a nuts and bolts. Hey, what's that machine in the air kind of thing? That was my gig, right? And to face this was just quite an eye opener for me. And I'm like, what am I getting myself into? But it just was coincidental that was one of my first, cases when when I first got started. But it sticks in my mind for obvious reasons.
Wow. Wow. I wouldn't even know what to say.
Yeah, I didn't either.
Shane, I hope you come back on with pictures and some videos next time. I'd love to have you back on. Maybe we won't have this
when our
technical
internet's working.
Yes. It's a joy to see you again. I really enjoy talking to you, Shane. You're one of my favorites. And I'll get in contact with you with some more dates. You have a
Sounds
good night.
Great. Thank you all. Yep. Thanks so much.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Good night, Todd and Brianna.
The truth is here and now on WLTK-DB Talk Radio at WLTK-DB.com.